0-1 teams. And the last 0-2 team to win the Super Bowl, got to go all the way back to 2007, the New York Giants. But like Jets are 0-1, Browns, Jags 0-1, Ravens 0-1. And this is the slate on CBS with 5 early games and a couple big late ones, including Bengals and Chiefs. Let's pick them with Pete Prisco and Kyle Long. And let's start with a 1 o'clock game on CBS. The Jets gave up 8 straight scoring drives in that Monday night loss to the 49ers. I know it's all about, yeah, I knew it would be Aaron Rodgers over there behind me, but really, is the biggest concern with the Jets this defense going in to face the Texans, or Titans, I should say?
They got a lot to play for. They got to get that taste out of their mouth from just the other night. I mean, they got bullied all over the football field. The line of scrimmage was absolutely in possession of the San Francisco 49ers. And for this Jets team, I couldn't think of a better opponent to go down. You get to go not back home because you get some boo birds at home, as you and I both know. You get to go on the road and beat a team with a pretty good roster in the Tennessee Titans. But look, Aaron Rodgers looked pretty good this past week to me. He looked healthy. Obviously, the mobility issues we've talked about ad nauseum here. But at the end of the day, this defense has to show up, show the world who they are. I'm picking the Jets.
You're picking the Jets. Hey, Chris, you know what they're doing, the Jets, right now? You know what this means?
What?
You know what they're doing?
What?
Playing back-to-back roadies.
Oh!
Yeah, you know how I love back-to-back roadies. That's tough to do. Short week. That's one of my go-tos. When teams play, you played the league. You know that's tough to do.
You got to go travel again.
Yeah, that's hard. And so I think it's going to be tough for the Jets to get back up. And they put a lot into that game on Monday night. Now you got to play a team that's really good on defense, by the way. They were physical last week against Caleb Williams. I think they keep him in it. And I'm not quitting Will Levis. I know everybody in the world is. I'm not. I think he's going to come back and respond. That Jets defense was terrible the other night. I thought the scheme was bad. I thought they were bad. They got pushed around. I think the Titans will find a way to win this game. They will beat the Jets.
Too much talent on that Jets defense to play like they did last week every week. And also, you're not playing against Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers every week. This is the Tennessee Titans. It's not the San Francisco 49ers.
They'll be better, but they won't be that much better. I have concerns about their run defense as much as anything.
I mean, we saw Quinnen Williams in the first couple drives, and I thought, oh, here we go. This defense is back. And then where was he the rest of the game?
Disappeared.
Yeah.
He was a no-show the rest of the game.
Chris, you mentioned a lot of matchups between 0-1 teams. This next one, we have the Browns and the Jags. But it feels like these are 2 different 0-1 teams because Deshaun Watson and the Browns looked absolutely terrible the entire game versus the Cowboys. And the Jags, it just felt like they looked good in the first half, and they were just trying to lose that game against Miami. Pete, what side of this are you on?
I'm on Jacksonville. I think they were the better team last week, clearly, and I think they got too conservative in the second half, and it cost too conservative offensively and not conservative enough when they called the stupid 4th down decision to go for it in their own end, up 17-14.
Kick the damn ball, moron.
No, it's okay to punt, morons. That's the shirt. We're going to start selling them all over.
It's okay to punt, morons.
It's okay to punt,
comma, you idiots.
Punctuation is very important.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's okay to punt, morons. And I mean, this league has gotten out of control with this. Doug Peterson. It's 17-14, punt the ball, you win the game. They didn't. They were going in for a touchdown, and ETN fumbled. They would have gone up 24-7. I watched the Browns game on tape. My gosh, I haven't seen a quarterback that bad in a long time, and there were a lot of bad quarterbacks last week. He's terrible. For the money he's making, he was awful. He didn't look like he was that much into it either. I have big concerns about him and how long he will be their quarterback. Deshaun Watson was terrible. I'll take Jacksonville in their home opener in this one to win the game.
I saw Deshaun Watson get sacked, and I saw him get up, and he went to help out one of his offensive linemen off the ground. You know what the O-lineman did? He slapped his hand away. I feel like in that locker room, you're starting to see a group that's no longer in belief of Deshaun Watson. And obviously, those of us on the outside that get to study this game that we watch every week, we know Deshaun's not good enough. So if the Cleveland Browns go down there and they trot Deshaun Watson out against the Jacksonville Jaguars, I am 100% in on the Jacksonville Jaguars. But if they make a change, if they bring out this guy, Jameis Winston, who, as you and I both know, he's a spark plug, he's a motivator, you could see a different version of the Browns team. That being said, I have to assume they're going with Deshaun Watson. I'm taking the Jags.
Are you going to let him change his pick if it's Jameis Winston?
No.
Okay.
You're locked in.
Lock it in. All right, another matchup of 0-1 teams on CBS. Raiders at Ravens. But the Ravens have done a really good job bouncing back after losses over the last couple of years. Their last 5 losses, not only have they come back and won, but 5-0 against the spread, and they're covering by almost 9 points per game.
You know what that is? That's good coaching, because he's a good coach, and that's a good organization from top to bottom. They ran into a tough team on the road to open the season and played very well and came within inches of tying that game and sending it to over, or going for 2 and maybe even winning it. This team will bounce back. They always do. They have more rest. The Raiders, it's an early start for them across the country. That's never a good thing. It's always hard to deal with that. And the Raiders weren't very good on offense last week. And why? Because they don't have a quarterback. Gardner Minshew is not a starting quarterback in the National Football League. I think the Raiders will have all kinds of problems against that defense in this game. I'll take the Ravens and lay the points.
Yeah, the Raiders' MO this season is going to be beat people up on defense, keep it close, and hope to have that game in a 2-minute situation where you can go make a play with your quarterback, Gardner Minshew. And I think if you look at the Raiders and what happened to them last week, they kind of ran into a buzzsaw. And the buzzsaw for me is the offensive tackle position for the Los Angeles Chargers. So the Raiders weren't able to get home. I think obviously the matchups bode better for this Raiders defense against the Ravens. Got some issues all over the line for the Baltimore Ravens. But at the end of the day, I am going to go with the Ravens minus 9.5 versus the Raiders because of the guy we showed on the screen earlier, Lamar Jackson. You can't count him out. He looks to be in great shape. This guy is so dangerous. Never underestimate the Lamar Jackson effect.
And one other thing about the Ravens that is concerning, the pass rush needs to, I mean, the outside guys somebody has to establish themselves. Ojabo had a sack in that game, but then he kind of disappeared. Those guys got to be better getting up the field and attacking the quarterback.
All right, we have the Chargers and the Panthers, and Chris, you found this note, and I had to kind of double check myself that over the last 9 games, dating back to last season, the Panthers have led for all of 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
In all of those games.
Are they going to lead it all in this one?
No. No, they're dreadful. And they lost their best player, Derek Brown, their defensive tackle, is gone too now. So it's a major problem. The quarterback's a major problem. And they replace guys, they add guys, they get new receivers, they get a new offensive coordinator or a new coach that's running a new offense, and he still isn't very good. It was a tough task on the road. New Orleans is a tough place to play. You know that. It's hard to go in there and win.
One of the hardest.
Yeah, and it's hard to win in there, particularly on opening day. But there was no progress made. None. Zero. He didn't look like he was any better, and that's a major concern. If you're a Carolina Panther fan right now, you are really concerned about your quarterback position, and this has to be a game where he shows something. I thought the Chargers defense played pretty well last week. I think they can get after the quarterback. He doesn't see down the field. It's a problem. I like the Chargers. Normally, this would be a caution game for me. You come off a division game. You go out on the road. You're playing all the way across the country in an early game. Harbaugh will have them playing. They're tough. They're physical. They will win this game.
Yeah, I don't care if you're playing home or if you're playing away. When it's Khalil Mack and it's Joey Bosa bearing down on you every single snap. And those guys look to be really good. They look to have returned to form. Let's see if those 2 veterans can maintain their high output for this Chargers team. But if I'm Jim Harbaugh, I'm licking my chops going into this game because, to your point, Derek Brown's out. He's the only guy with a lot of notoriety on that Carolina defense. So if I'm Jim Harbaugh, I'm going to be running 12 personnel, maybe some 13 personnel. Let's pound the rock. Let's get back on the plane to Southern California as quickly as we can.
Does Justin Herbert throw for over 200 yards? Because he was under it last week.
If he throws over 200 yards, then I was wrong about Jim Harbaugh's game plan. I don't think he throws for over 200 yards.
He might not need to in this game.
No.
Right. Let's move on to the 49ers at the Vikings. And, the whole Christian McCaffrey situation reports that he's a long shot to play in this one. And 49ers are laying a lot of points here on the road, 6.5 in a really good home environment against a team that really looked great in week 1, Kyle.
Yeah, it's a great football team, really well coached. Obviously, they've got strong players at all the strong positions you need. The only question mark is that quarterback in Minnesota with Sam Darnold. Is he able to have a renaissance under Kevin O'Connell? But for me, I look at the other side of the field, and it's the San Francisco 49ers. They're going to be able to run the football early downs. That's going to be what keeps them on schedule. It's going to be another week of Brandon Ayuk being in lockstep with Brock Purdy. Obviously, last week we saw some of those misses in the previous game. But George Kittle looked to be great. Pass blocking, run blocking, catching passes. They can do it all. San Francisco. And for the San Francisco Niners offense, how do you respond to this Brian Flores blitz package?
That's what I want to see. I mean, Brian Flores gets creative. He comes after. He's attacking, and when you look at what Kyle Shanahan can do, it's a great matchup against those two. It's a short week for them, kind of, so it's tough to deal with that. You're out on the road after a short week. Vikings, that's a tough place to play. That place is just obnoxious. that's obnoxious.
49ers haven't won there since 1992.
They'll win here, but they're not going to cover that number.
That's a long time.
I think that the Minnesota defense will play well enough to keep them in the game, and they'll score enough points offensively down the field to hit some shots. You saw
yeah, football game's going to break out for sure.
Yeah,
but I got the Niners.
I took the Vikings. I don't think they'll win the game, but I'll take them with the points. We like to differ. I got to catch up.
This is good.
All right, let's see if you're on the same page when it comes to the Bucs and the Lions. Lions, they're a touchdown favorite here. They swept the Bucs last season, including in the divisional round. But Pete, we talked about it earlier. Baker Mayfield, I know it was against the Commanders, but he looked really, really good last week.
He did, and there are some concerns about the Lions defense. You know, they spent all those assets in the secondary, and they're supposed to be that much better. Matt Stafford had nothing. I mean, Puka Nacua wasn't there. The offensive line was decimated, and he still went for over 300 and almost won that game. I think Mayfield will go up there and throw it around. They went there in the postseason last year and almost won that game. Mayfield played well. I think he'll play well in this one. My concern, though, is the other side of the ball. They're so banged up in the secondary. You know, they lost Hall, the corner, last week for the year. Winfield's not playing. McCollum was out last week. They're banged up in the secondary. That's not a good thing. So it'll be a high-scoring game. I think the Bucs will hang around because they'll score points, but I think the Lions win the game.
It's going to be it's going to take a Herculean effort from Baker Mayfield and this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team to go in there at Ford Field and play in front of this raucous crowd and make it happen. We all know the Detroit Lions on paper, they're supposed to win this football game. That's why they're, what are they, laying 7 points or something like that?
Yeah.
7 points Detroit's laying. I'm going to have to go with the Buccaneers. I rave about Baker Mayfield all the time. I'd love to hear that pregame speech, you know, before he runs out of the tunnel in Detroit. That guy's going to have people ready to run through a friggin' wall against the Detroit Lions team who runs through walls for fun.
I love this team.
I think
the Bucs are talented across the board, and I just wish they were healthy on the back end.
Yeah, they're
beat up. Win the game.
Pete, what do you say about Baker Mayfield?
What do I say?
Yeah. What do you say? You know,
he's an alpha male.
No, you say you got the fire in the belly. You always say that.
Well,
he's a Sigma. He's a Sigma male.
He does have fire.
Is that what Pete says about him? He's an alpha male?
I've never heard that.
Yeah, he owns it. That's what they all say. All the players say it. Every one of those Bucs players rally around him. They love him.
Let's move to the Colts at the Packers, and the Colts are favorites here on the road, -3.5, because Jordan Love is not playing in this game. It's likely going to be Malik Willis, Pete, getting his first start since his rookie season in 2022.
Yeah, Malik Willis is better. I saw him at practice when I was in Tennessee. He's better than he was a year ago. That doesn't mean he's really good yet, but he's better. I don't know if he can win this game, but what can happen is I think the defense can keep him in the game. Richardson missed a lot of shots last week. He hit some, but he missed a bunch. He's inaccurate. They're out on the road. Packers are rested. I think the Colts will win the game, but I'm going to take the points in the Green Bay. I think they hang around in the game. I think Willis does enough. Willis for one game, sometimes you see this, and you've been around this, a backup quarterback comes in and everybody elevates their game and plays better. You can do it for one game. I don't think it's sustainable, but I think in one game scenario, I think they'll be good enough to keep them in the game.
I think the Colts are going to run the heck out of the football against this Green Bay Packers team. But to your point about Malik Willis, a guy filling in for a starter, especially a guy on a really, really short window of being in Green Bay. Malik Willis just got there. I know Matt LaFleur is a really good coach. It's interesting to me to see what the first 15 is going to be. And the first 15, for those of you guys who don't know, those are the 15 plays we're going to start the game with, and we can build our offense from there. I'm interested to see if Malik looks good in the first 15 because LaFleur can scheme things up so well. But after that, it's going to have to be the lone Jedi, Malik Willis, on his own, trying to figure out how to make the adjustments in real time against this defense.
By the way, if the Colts run the ball like you think they will, the Packers will probably run the ball. The Colts couldn't stop the run last week. Joe Mixon ran wild against them last week. So it might be one of those games that's over in 2 hours and 30 minutes.
And I am picking the Colts, by the way.
To cover.
Yes.
Yeah. I pick them to win, Packers to cover.
First time AR has been a favorite as a starting quarterback. Pete, I'm just seeing like deja vu of you saying you are who you are when talking about backup quarterbacks, as we have that conversation many a times on this test.
They can get one game or two games, and then you become who you are.
Willis still hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in his career.
He might run a couple.
Yeah. He can run. They'll gimmick up some stuff for him. One game you can do that, 1 or 2 games, and then
you got to have your eyes right if you're the Colts
clock
defense.
Strikes midnight on every Cinderella quarterback that's ever played as a backup. It does. It always does, except Tom Brady.
Yeah, well, Willis couldn't come through with the Hail Mary at the end of the game. That was tough against the Eagles. Let's talk about the Seahawks and the Patriots. Both of these teams are 1-0. Talking about the Patriots being 1-0 going into week 2 was certainly not on my bingo card, but it's a battle between two of the youngest head coaches in the NFL.
And I watched the Patriots tape, and I was impressed with what they did on defense. They were physical on defense, and then they ran the ball on offense in the second half against the Bengals, who are supposed to be a Super Bowl-type team. That was impressive. The Seattle offensive line, you know this. The offensive line apologist knows this. They're bad right now, really bad.
It's not great.
And that's going to be a problem against that defense. They show so many different looks. The Patriots' looks were amazing. They had so many looks where they had one guy with his hand on the ground, and the Bengals never adjusted to it. I think it's going to be a problem for Seattle's offensive line. I don't love the Patriots' offense, but if they can run the ball well enough, they'll be okay. They'll hang around in this game. I'll take the Patriots in the points.
Yeah, I see a slow start for both teams offensively in New England. Really tough place to play in New England. Obviously, you get them a win week 1 against the Bengals. Those fans are going to have a couple more pops in their system by game time. It's going to be a raucous environment, definitely in New England. But I think at the end of the day, it's the talent that Geno Smith and his receiving core has and what's in his possession. His ability to throw the football will take them the next step past this Patriots team. I think it comes down to quarterbacks, and you know the Patriots won't have the luxury of running the football the whole time because of the receivers on that Seattle front. And for the offensive line, got to get the ball out, got to protect your guy. The multiple looks against Jared Mayo's Patriots is going to be an issue. I mean, they're going to be spinner looks. Spinner looks means D-end getting off the ball, walking behind the linebacker, fooling you out pre-snap. Is he a rusher? Is he in coverage? You got to have your eyes right against the New England Patriots defense.
That total is just plummeting. It's all the way down to 37.5 now. It looks like an Iowa.
That's a long trip for Seattle, too. That's a long trip.
Pete, you're obsessed with the
Well,
trip.
because traveling kills you.
Back-to-back road games.
Ask him. He did it on Saturday and came back on Sunday night.
And Wednesday.
Saints and Cowboys. This is an interesting one. You could argue nobody looked better than the Saints week 1. And the Cowboys look great against the Browns. Cowboys have been so good at home. 16-game winning streak, one off the record that they set back in the 70s and 80s.
What's your plan to block Micah Parsons if you're the New Orleans Saints? Coming into the season, it was the tackle position in New Orleans that I had questions about. The left tackle, Fuaga, has answered my questions. He looks to be a good player in the National Football League. Penning wasn't terrible week 1. Right. Obviously, not a lot of great rushers, not a lot of great talent on that Carolina defense. Well, that's going to change this week when you go to Jerry's World, and it's Micah Parsons, and it's 3rd and 11, and you can't hear yourself think, and Micah's out there crawling out of the huddle, you know, on all fours. That's not a great spot to be. So for that explosive offense we saw for New Orleans last week, don't expect to see that again. And it all comes down to how is Dak and CD going to look. They always look good. I'm going with the Cowboys.
I'm on the other side of this one. I think the Saints held up on the offensive line, which is the major concern. They hit some shots down the field. Now, they played an exhibition game last week, so it kind of doesn't count. This is their first regular season game against the Cowboys. That's tough to do, but I think they'll hang around in the game. I think they're good enough on defense. You know, there's a lot of veterans mixed in with young guys on that defense, which I like. Honey Badger was outstanding last week on tape. He hasn't declined much at all, and I think that shows up. I think they hang around. It's close. They won't win it, but it'll be close.
I can't wait to call you.
By the way, Overshawn, the linebacker, the second-year linebacker, tore his knee up last year. He was really good last week for the Cowboys. They have more speed on that defense.
All right, we have a divisional matchup with the Giants and the Commanders, and both teams 0-1, but man, Daniel Jones has been dreadful. He has thrown more touchdown passes to the other team since the start of last season, Kyle.
That's not good, Jack. That's not good at all. You don't want to do that. We used to put the jersey of the other team in our quarterback's locker and be like, hey, that's the other team. You throw it to our team, okay?
I love that.
Don't hit me, but this is just facts, okay? And for Daniel Jones, he's going to have to get his facts straight here. He's going to have to try to look more like an NFL quarterback. And I like everybody else, has ridden this guy hard, but it's at the point now where I'm starting to feel bad for Daniel Jones, for Brian Daboll, the situation they're in. And the other side of the field, you got Jaden Daniels in this Commanders offense. Jaden Daniels looked to be the most impressive rookie quarterback we saw in week 1. So I look for him to build on that against this football team. I'm going to go Commanders in this. It was kind of a toss-up. I'm going to go Commanders. I'd love to see Daniel Jones play well. I'd love to see Malik Neighbors catch a bunch of balls. But now I'm pivoting. I want to see Jaden Daniels ball out, and the Commanders look good on offense.
Yeah, the Commanders looked awful on defense. That's a worry to me. And I know the Giants offense offense was bad. The offensive line wasn't good. The Commanders' offensive line wasn't very good. I think this is going to be an ugly game. Something doesn't add up to this line, though. Usually you'd think Commanders would be a 3-point favorite or so at home in this game. They're only 1.5. I'm surprised. I think the Giants will come in and play well. I think Dable will get this team to rebound. I don't believe in Daniel Jones anymore. I used to think he could maybe salvage his career. So far, he's looked so bad this season that I'm starting to wonder if he's going to cost everybody in the building their jobs. But I think they respond and play well here. Here's the other thing. They spent assets and money to go get Brian Burns. No show. Thibodeau, high draft pick, no show. Those guys got to play better.
They were playing against the best tackle combination in football last week against the Minnesota
Vikings. You love that Vikings tackle. I love Darisaw. Don't get me wrong.
They are really freaking good, dude.
You overestimate O'Neal. He's good. He's not.
10,000 legs and 2 All-Pro tackles. Must be nice.
All right, Washington and New York there in the NFC East, including Chiefs at home against the Bengals, and we also have the couple of maybe surprising teams, Steelers anyway, 1-0, taking on Bo Nix and the Broncos. All right, let's start with the marquee game there in Kansas City. Joe Burrow is 3-1 against Patrick Mahomes in his career, but Pete, I mean, do you have any inkling to take the Bengals here after what you saw from them in Week 1?
No. And normally I would sit here and say I'm going to take the Bengals and the points in this game, but I can't do it after watching that. It was bad. It wasn't just offensively. It was bad on defense at times too. I mean, they got pushed around in the run game, and that's a concern for me. I think this is a tough spot for Joe Burrow. Chase didn't look right last week, missing time, and he was also sick. No Higgins. That's a problem. Doesn't look like he's probably not going to go this week. So I do think this is a team that's depleted in what they normally do. And Joe Burrow hasn't played well. They haven't won games in the first 2 weeks of the season. I don't think they're going to win this game. The Chiefs are well rested, by the way. They'll have a lot of rest. I think the Chiefs will find a way to win this game and cover the number.
What'd you ask him? This guy, Joe Burrow, he's 3-1 versus Patrick Mahomes, right?
Head-to-head, yeah.
Who do you think knows that more than anybody in the world right now? Okay, and you get my point. You get where I'm going with this. Hell hath no fury like a Mahomes scorned, okay? And this guy, Patrick, is an absolute monster day in, day out. But when you add some fuel to that fire, I've seen the extra focus. He pays attention in blitz meetings and in all the stuff. The guy is going to be so locked in against this Bengals team. He understands he can go out and try to embarrass this Bengals team. I'm going Chiefs all day, baby. And it's at Arrowhead. Come on.
It feels like starting slow, 0-2 is just kind of a theme for the Bengals, as we're seeing the Steelers, surprisingly, the only AFC North team to squeak out a win in Week 1. They're going up against the Broncos. Justin Fields is going to get the start. And, Kyle, you were saying earlier today, whether it's Fields, whether it's Russ, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, well, I think if you're looking at the way that they want to run their offense in Pittsburgh, they want to pound the rock, and they've got guys that they can run the football with, and they want to let their athletic quarterback get on the edge and watch some of these trips formations turn into deep crossers. You want to see flood concepts, so you're looking at sprint outs, you're looking at naked boots for Justin Fields, and that's it. Justin Fields is the guy to make those types of plays. But for the Broncos, I'm excited to see what they look like. Last week, obviously, they went and played against Mike McDonald's defense. Really ugly first half for both those teams in Seattle. I think the Broncos and Bo Nix get to show us who this quarterback is in the second week of the season. The rookie will take some step forward. I'm going to pick the Broncos. It's Steelers -3. Definitely taking the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm taking the Broncos as well. Back-to-back road games for the Steelers, and again
at elevation.
And we at elevation, and we don't know what the quarterback will look like now that there's a little book on him again. I mean, book in this offense. You know, when guys come in and they aren't supposed to play, and you throw them in there, the defensive coordinators kind of get caught off guard. The players get caught off guard. Well, now we have the situation where he played. You know what he can do, and they know what he's going to do. So they're prepared for him a little bit better than they were a week ago. You're right. Denver was bad. Bo Nix couldn't throw the ball down the field and hit anything. I mean, he threw a ton of passes and couldn't get any yards. It was just a tough sledding for them against that defense. The Steelers are really good on defense, too, but I think this will be a low-scoring game. I think it's a one-point game. I think the Steelers will find a way to win, but I'm taking the Broncos in the points.
Bo Nix in quick game will help that offensive line tremendously, who are trying to stop one of the best to ever do it in T.J. Watt. He gets home so quickly. Bo Nix needs to get rid of it even quicker than that.
Watt, man, he's almost single-handedly just dominated that game last week. Only one game at 4:05, and that's Rams at Cards. Both teams 0-1. Rams losing a heartbreaker in overtime. You know, the last time the Rams started 0-2, they were in St. Louis. It was back in 2011.
I was watching. My older brother was there. It was a rough time to be a Rams
Yeah, it was a
fan.
rough year. That's why they moved.
No,
The line in this game
They move
is,
for this. They move for the money.
It's
What are you
Cards
thinking
minus
on this one?
1.5.
Because I got some thoughts.
The offensive line of the Rams is just decimated. I mean, 2 more guys went down. Noteboom and Avila are out now, too. They have major problems on that offensive line. The Rams have owned the Cardinals, by the way. I think it's 13 out of 15 they've won, if I'm not mistaken, over the last 15 games. But this is a tough spot for them. When your offensive line is banged up like that, they kind of made their way through it, against the Lions. But now that tackle has to start. That's a problem. And he was a spinning top at left tackle when he went in. I think it's going to be an issue for them on the offensive line. They're not great defensively for the Cardinals, but I think they'll find a way to get after the quarterback. I think Arizona wins this game.
Nobody is more aware of the issues that the LA Rams have up front than Sean McVay and Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford, because the bodies were in front of his legs the entire time that he was playing this past week, but he still had the skills to get out there and get the ball out and keep the offense moving in rhythm. Obviously, we saw Puka Nacua go out. He's got an MCL. That's going to be a few weeks. I'm interested to see how much volume Cooper Kupp can do at this point in his career. He stepped up, had some big catches last week for Matt Stafford. But at the end of the day, I'm going with the Cardinals. This one's so tight. I mean, it could go either way, but it comes down to that offensive line. I'm not sure, run or pass, they're going to be able to get the job done. And I want to see more from Marvin Harrison Jr. this week.
All right, the guys picked every game against the spread. It is now time for Best Bets. Prisco's Picks, presented by FanDuel. Everybody's going to chip in with their best bet of the week, beginning with old Petey Pie.
And I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings. I just think that this is a tough spot for the 49ers.
You're on board with the tackles that Kyle was talking about. The best tackles in the league, best tackle combination.
They're a good tackle combination. I love Christian Darrisaw. I think O'Neill's good, too. He's not great like you make him out to be, but he's a good player. I think they're going to hang around in the game. I really do. I think the 49ers will win the game, but I think their defense, Flores' defense, will keep his team in the game. I think the Vikings +6 is a great pick. I'll take them as my best bet.
My pick is Jaguars -3.5 versus the Cleveland Browns. And I mean, you just don't know what you're going to get from this Cleveland Browns team. We saw them absolutely take a pee down their leg last week. And without a quarterback that is a true NFL starting level guy, you really don't know what you're going to get out of your football team. And I'll tell you what, it is horrible for morale when you've got a quarterback that is just outmatched. Trevor Lawrence is the guy in Jacksonville. He looked to be like himself last week. I'm going Jags. Lock this thing in, baby. The Browns, we got to figure this thing out at quarterback.
Jacqueline and I are giving picks, too.
We are. And
You wanted to take that.
I did. I put my picks in last, and now I know not to, because you have to have something different to make it fun.
Yeah.
But I do like that pick because T-Law, as we call him, Pete, him and
nobody calls him T-Law.
Yes, they do.
Nobody calls him
that
T-Law.
connection on full display so early, it's going to be dangerous. But I digress. My pick is Saints 6.5 plus the Cowboys. I know Dak just got paid, and CD looked really good, and they looked good against the Browns. But was that more about the Browns just being that bad? I know the Cowboys are good at home, but I don't know, maybe they're too comfortable. Derek Carr kind of looked like an MVP in his exhibition game, but I don't know, don't sleep on
MVP, Derek Carr. You heard it here first, Pete.
I said,
I'm glad he's
like
still
one against
balling,
the
by the way.
Panthers.
He got a bad rap for a few years. That's a really good quarterback in this league. He is a really good quarterback in this league. I think so. Derek Carr's a good quarterback.
When games don't mean anything.
You got to protect him. You got to protect him.
I think the Cowboys win, but the Saints cover.
All right, I've got the Bucks +7 at the Lions. Bucks, a lot of people, including you, Pete, think they're going to win that division. They're the best in the NFC South. So I know the Lions are probably the best in the NFC North, but I've got the Bucks covering.
I love
+7.
all these picks, by the way. They're all my picks. Every single one of them.
How about
It's
the
a parlay.
producer pick, the newsroom pick, the control room pick? Ravens laying a big number, -9.5 against the Raiders.
Love them.
You love
You
them?
guys are on some better stuff in the control room this week. I like that.
Yeah.
What was the pick last week? It was
Cleveland.
Browns.
Yeah.
Yeah, Browns -2.5 against the Cowboys.
Boy.
Ooh, yeah, that
That thing
not
was
come through.
dead at halftime.
Fellas, I hope you have as good a week this week as you had last week. They both had winning weeks. Kyle was great, 11-5-1. He likes the Jags -3.5. Pete's on the Vikings +6.5. I like the Bucks +7 in Detroit. Jacqueline's got the Saints +6.5 in Dallas, and the producer picked Ravens.
it.